I should be like you, Mel.
Ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good very early morning to my main man next to me, Manny Thangadori. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. I mean, obviously, as you said, it is very early in the morning, well past my bedtime, as it were. But listen, it's Friday night. I have no excuses, and just goes to show, as Sia would say, I definitely do not need pound notes to have a good time.
I tell you what, you're full of it, aren't you? I love it, Manny. Absolutely love it, mate. Mate, honestly, the pleasure's all mine. It's always great to have you on here, and no, thank you so much for joining us. Now, if you are new, if you are a fan of AFC Bournemouth or one of the other 19 clubs in the Premier League, do get involved in the comments. Do get involved in giving us a like, and do get involved in giving us a subscribe as well, because it's really, really appreciated. We do have a number of people who are floating about over different platforms, a grand total of 21 as it stands at the moment, across all sorts of different platforms. But at this moment in time, we have a comment from somebody who everybody will know all too well. That's Malcolm Chiverton. He's given us a yellow card. How you doing, Malcolm? Hope you're doing well. And don't worry, we're not going to mention Andoni going anywhere. He is staying at AFC Bournemouth, like we said in that last episode. So I will, that's the last I'm saying on it. If anybody comments in the chat about Andoni going anywhere, I will instantly ignore that comment. So there we are.
Yeah, you don't want the yellow to turn into a red, Craig, for sure.
Yes, I might get a red card. For that. Sean has said, I don't want to go back to work tonight, or I don't want to go to work tonight. There we are, Sean. Well, you can watch us whilst you stick it on the big screen if you've got it. If you've got a big screen in your office, stick us on the big screen. Make everybody listen to my dulcet tones, put nicely. So, yes. But big thank you, firstly, to our two sponsors. Firstly, Touchpoint Telecoms at touchpointtelecoms.co.uk. Do get in contact with Mark and the team from anywhere from Totnes to Tranmere. Shall we say that? Mark will sort out all your business telecoms needs, and of course, Dental on the Banks. If you need your Nasher sorted, you know where to go. Dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Dentalonthebanks.co.uk. And of course, they do sort out the teeth for now Manchester City player. Honestly. it's painful, Manny, watching him play in a Man City shirt, to be honest. And he's really hit the ground running. I'm delighted for him. But I wish he was here still. Wish Semenyo was here still.
You're not the only one, Craig. I mean, like it's always going to be sad when just when your one of your players is coming into a wonderful run of form, which could prove crucial to how well your team performs. Upsets the big bad citizens, and they pinch that player from under your noses. It happens to a lot of other clubs. It used to happen to Arsenal back in the day. We used to give some of our better players over to Manchester City. But again, to be fair, that was before they ended up becoming the behemoth that they are now. And, it's sad, but you've got to find a way to somehow move on. And as I've said, if you are able to conclude some good business with Arsenal, getting Ethan Nwaneri to come and sign for you, I think if you give him some games and give him a chance to impress, especially on that right wing, I think he will do very, very well for you. So there's always hope, and you still got the dosh.
Well, Ethan Nwaneri, I haven't heard too much about him in the past couple of days. However, there is still rumours circulating. He's also been linked with West Ham United, but I would imagine his desired destination is AFC Bournemouth, based on league position alone. But, West Ham fans might disagree with me on that. If you are a West Ham fan and you are watching, tell us why he would want to go to West Ham rather than the Cherries. Because I'm scratching my head why anybody would want to go there at this moment in time. But there we go. Malcolm has said, hope you're both well, guys. And he said, no, it isn't. It just shows how good he really is. And he's settled in so well. Good luck to him. Oh, yeah, I always do wish him luck. However, I am gutted. I'd love him to still be in a Bournemouth shirt. I'd love him to still be playing for this football club. And it is a matter of where we are really in the football pyramid, I think, more than anything else, that we're not a selling club. I've seen on social media, Manny, a load of people saying AFC Bournemouth are a selling club. They have to sell to buy. I think that's a load of garbage, to be perfectly honest. I think what we are finding now is that we are getting players picked off by teams that are the elite. Dean Howson, for example, was picked off by a club that's the elite. Ilya Zabania, an elite club. You can say Liverpool are an elite club, Kirkes. And of course, Man City are very much so nowadays. Not so years ago when we was playing them in 2001. They were in the same league as us. We didn't beat them then. So yeah, it's only the one win we've had against Manchester City the other year. But yeah, Malcolm's telling me off in the chat, but I'll come to Paul's comment first. He said, hi, Craig and Manny. Antoine is a very special, irreplaceable player. Snapped by a big boy, broke my heart. Yeah, likewise. It's hard. It's tough. And Malcolm is saying, get over it, Craig. Football evolves, and who knows what for a starting 11 we'll have next season. Yeah, I know, Malcolm. I know we're going to have this debate at some point, I'm sure. But, he is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of my favourite players to play for this club I would say ever, to be perfectly honest. He gave his all to the very, very end. He didn't necessarily need to play as hard as he did because the move was already pretty much agreed. But he did. And he scored that goal against Spurs, of course, to beat them. And, he is just a credit to himself. And, he is, without a shadow of doubt, a special talent and the player who I absolutely love, Antoine Semenyo. I really do. believe it or not, when he first come in from Bristol City, I was very much, and I remember saying to Matt at the time, and I said, he blows hot and cold. And I even said it to Mark McAdam, and Mark McAdam kind of agreed with me that, Antoine Semenyo blew hot and cold at Bristol City. He wasn't consistent. He come here, he showed consistency, and he's only just gone and taken that to Manchester City. It's gutting, but at the same time, it is football, like you say. And yeah, I don't think I can ever get over it, but I can't. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's
You
it's
become
going to be
attached
difficult.
to players, don't you? Am I
Yes.
alone in this? That I
No, Craig, you will never be alone in this, and you know, you've got someone in me who definitely empathizes with you because you're spot on. Obviously, you get, exceptionally fond of a certain player, especially if that person has certain, qualities that you just love. You see in some ways a bit of yourself in that person, by the way, or that person might just have a chicken soup for the soul story. It's
wish
the
I could
same
play
with.
as well as Antoine, to be fair.
Oh, don't we all? Don't we all? Don't we all? And I think although I think Malcolm might be a little bit school marmish for want of a nicer word, I think he does have a point though. Everything evolves, and there will be some new ones who will come right in. I think the trick is to just make sure that you remember the good moments, and as long as there's going to be that respect that the player has for the club and how much he loves the fans and everyone else, you're always going to have some good memories. The only issue that I have would be if players start, gobbing off to the press and start, insulting the manager and the club, or even the fans. It might sour things a little bit. And regrettably, you see a lot of people doing that, but I don't see Antoine doing that. And, you just have to try and move on. And the sooner you move on, the better, it has to be said. And we're going to go into that later, obviously.
Yes, there's already a player that has already been agreed, as far as it's understood. But yes, it will be very, very, very interesting. Just a little blurb that's just popped up on the screen. With Arsenal competing on multiple fronts, depth and trust matter, and Nwaneri remains firmly part of the plan. Nwaneri himself is understood to be keen on staying at Arsenal. So an interesting fact there. Nwaneri
True. They always say that. They always say that. And something will happen later on in the month that could swing the pendulum the other way. So we'll see how that goes.
Sean has said, I know getting a player in isn't exactly easy, but when we knew Semenyo was going, we didn't have a player ready to come straight in. We might do actually hold this space we're going to mention in a minute. You don't need to get over it. I wish Dango was here, but players move on, so you look forward to the next exciting player. And of course, we do have very, very many exciting players. And Sean's made a very good point here. I miss Brett Pittman too. I miss Brett Pittman. He is a man I will jump up and down till I'm blue in the face. Brett Pittman could and should have played in the Premier League. That would have made him one of the first players to play and score, because no doubt he would have scored in the Premier League in all four divisions. And if there was one gripe, and I know this is really silly to say, if there's one gripe I have with Eddie Howe, it's not giving Brett that chance, because I think Brett would have done well in the top flight. I don't think he would have been an out starter, don't get me wrong, but I think he would have done all right. And Paul said, if we kept our back three plus Kevin Dango and Antoine, surely we'd be in Europe this season. Yeah, most definitely so. But I tell you what, let's go on to, and Sean said he's agreed with me. Let's go on to the player who is thought to potentially be replacing Antoine Semenyo, and that is Alex Toth. Now, it's not a like for like position, actually. this player, he is known as a defensive midfielder. He is currently playing for Navracos. I think I've said that right.
No, mate, it's
Go on, you say it.
Ferencvaros. It's Ferencvaros, and I do believe Robbie Keane is the manager of that club, I think.
Is he? I never knew that. He is as well. See, Manny, you are the encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to this sort of thing, because I would never have known that in a million years. But yes, Robbie Keane, he is the manager of. You'll have to say it again because I'm going to say it wrong.
Ferencvaros.
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 I'll let you say that.
Yeah.
We'll move it swiftly on. So, Alex Toth, this is understood that this is a done deal. He is actually classed as a centre defensive midfielder for the Hungarian team. We're just going to quickly go through some details about Alex Toth. So, of course, we've mentioned his club. We've mentioned who he plays for at an international level. As it stands at this moment in time, he's played 9 games for the Hungarian first team. He moved through the ranks very, very quickly through the under-18s all the way to the under-21s. He is only 20 years of age, so he's very, very good. He's thought highly of, and he's an excellent passer with a good vision, technique, mobility, and work rate. So yes, he's an exciting prospect. So I'm just going to go through this a little bit here. Alex Toth is considered a significant prospect in Hungarian football, ranked among the best young players by CIES Football Observatory. Alex Toth has been linked with moves to major European clubs, including Newcastle United, Liverpool, and of course AFC Bournemouth. Due to his impressive performance, his agent has emphasised his commitment to the Hungarian side. I'm going to refer to him as that for development, but acknowledges his growing status. And as far as we know, this is a done deal. So it's an interesting one. Manny, I'm going to pass it over to you first. What do you make of this move? What do you make of this player from what you know of him? And do you think he's going to fit into the AFC Bournemouth mantra?
Yeah, well, I think if you take a look at Toth's profile, he is actually more of a defensive midfielder, but there is no doubt that he can actually, evolve from that. And there is actually a wonderful article on BBC Sport about this certain player. There's a Hungarian expert named Bence Bozsák who has told BBC Solent Sport that he is the ultimate professional with a slightly different career to that of his compatriot and Hungarian captain Dominik Szoboszlai. The thing about this chap, Alex, is that he can play as a number 8. He can be a box-to-box player, has also played as a holding player in the past. He'll probably be more of a destroyer type. And he may not be a destroyer type, but he's more of a deep line creator. But he does also have the ability to play more advanced as a number 10. And he's played all of those roles for the Hungarian national team. So basically, in a nutshell, he can be a 6, he can be an 8, and he can also be a 10. And so he's pretty much had to wait his time, really, having worked hard, put in a lot of work. The ultimate professional throughout, still exceptionally young. And how it could possibly work with Andoni's style of football, Mr. Bozsák says that Andoni's style, as we all know, is quite focused and high pressing, very good in those final third areas. So he's good at that. It'll probably be his role sort of coming in for Justin Kluivert. So he's not really going to be a replacement for Semenyo, far from it. And he may start off, playing as more of a defensive midfield. And I'll tell you what, I don't even know how long Lewis Cook is going to be at the Cherries, because we already saw, his big brother Steve leave not too long ago, going to Forest, now QPR. I think Steve might have, retired. I don't know if he's still playing. I will look that
Yeah,
up.
he's
But-
still at QPR.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be another example of how, with the club's excellent scouting and Andoni's talent ID, you can actually take him and really make him a star. And he can actually do some really good things for Bournemouth, the way the likes of Enes Unal and others have been able to do. And when you bring more of these players in, it can only be good for the club going forward. So, yeah, I'm quite excited with this. And, it's also preparing for the future in a way, because we still don't know what might happen to Justin Kluivert and maybe, for that matter, Marcus Tavernier. I hope Marcus will stay. But Justin might also end up being coveted by some decent clubs around Europe who might want to offer him a chance of, playing for another big club again just before he ends his career. But Bournemouth is that club which has this ability to really, just pluck these gems out of nowhere, give them a role in this team. And it's also a testament to Andoni's ability that he's really stamped his managerial mark on the club in such a way that, that's when people talk about Bournemouth, they identify more with that style of play, probably more so now than it ever was with Eddie Howe or even other managers before him. So I like the way things are going. It's just a shame at the moment the club isn't really in the best of form right now. But all I will say is, and I've said this on several other streams, you deserve to be a lot higher in the table than where you are now. And hopefully with some good January business, you'll get into a bit of a recovery. And you're definitely not getting relegated, but you need to be much higher up the table. And hopefully signing Alex Toth will be the start to the recovery.
Well, he looks an exciting player, from the statistics, at the Hungarian side. I'm not going to try and say their name because I'm just going to butcher it. For that sort of position, he is only a youngster. He's only 20 years of age. He's born in 2005. I remember 2005 like it was yesterday. I was at university in 2005. But one thing that this does kind of hint to is maybe that Tyler Adams' injury is going to be a little bit longer than what we expect. So yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to partner Alex Scott at the back, or in those defensive midfield positions, which maybe is where we're kind of lacking a little bit at the moment. I do get where you're coming from with Lewis Cook. Jimenez on the right hand side of defence. Lewis Cook can play there. He's not exactly the quickest. He knows his position though. And sometimes Lewis Cook, you could say, is probably better in that right back position, but Jimenez does get forward a lot quicker. So yeah, I think that's probably why this movie is quite good. But there we are, Alex Toth. And as you can probably see on the screen now, Mark Gay deal to Manchester City is close to completion for £20 million and will not play for Palace against Sunderland tomorrow. We was just talking about Manchester City. And, I thought we were talking about PSR as well, though, weren't we? Why does it not apply to them?
Look, I don't want to get into the in-depth of that because I don't want to, A, anger myself, and B, delve into a very controversial topic, which I'm still not really, aware of. But you just know that when it comes to these elite clubs, somehow they'll find a way. It all stems down to the revenue that they can bring in and their, ability to earn success on a more consistent basis. And I think they're just able to pull it off a lot more frequently. But we do have to say a word about Crystal Palace, because obviously last season it was the zenith and they had their best season ever after a dreadful start. They backed Glasner to the hilt and he rewarded them magnificently. But, ever since they've lost the likes of Elise and Eze, and now Gehi will be gone, there's even talk about, obviously, them being ready to sell Jean-Philippe Mateta. And we also have the news that Oliver Glasner will not be renewing his contract with Palace. He will want a new challenge. So it definitely looks as though this is the end of the beginning rather than the beginning of the end, because someone new will come in and Crystal Palace are going to have to try and rebuild from the wreckage, as it were. So it's sad in a way, but then that's sort of the way it is. It's when you see football being played and business being conducted the way it's being conducted, it's like the law of nature more than anything else. The strong will always prey upon the weak in terms of, financial muscle and so forth. And even if you have some clubs who will buck the trend and overachieve, you aren't sure how long they're going to be able to sustain it. But hey, at least you've got the memories.
I feel for Palace fans, actually, because, of course, they should have got into the Europa League last year. The Forest getting in there instead was an actual real injustice. But the big thing is they mention us, they mention Brighton, and they mention Brentford when they talk about, clubs with really, really, really good scouting setups, that continuity plan. They always know teams that know, dare I say it, and Malcolm, cover your ears. If Andoni Iraola goes tomorrow, I think we've got a succession plan of who to replace him with. We talk about these sort of clubs, and I'm sure that Alex Toth has been on the radar for a while. The guys have been scouting him. Have Crystal Palace really got that same setup? The squads, they've had some great players there. Elise is without a shadow of a doubt. And in fact, I turned around a while back, and it was one player that I'd want AFC Bournemouth to sign out of anybody, and it was Michael Elise, because I could see how good he was back then. Playing for Crystal Palace alongside Erebeshi Eze. I'd take both of them, to be perfectly honest. They're both great players playing together, but they seem to complement each other well. But I don't feel that they've got that succession planning as well as what we do. I don't think they've got the succession plan as well as what Brighton do. And lo and behold, dare I even say it, Brentford as well. Brentford, everybody's tips to be relegated at the start of the season, without a doubt. Everybody thought, well, Keith Andrews, of course, Thomas Frank has gone to Spurs. There's a lot of upheaval, and Mbembo's left. Johan Wissa's gone to Newcastle. There was doubts. Norgard's left as well, and he seems to have kept it going there. So, our three clubs, but I do question about Crystal Palace if they're in the same boat as us. To an earlier point, Malcolm said, correct, Manny. Honeygun BCFC, I guess, Bristol City Football Club.
Yes, Bristol City.
Yes. Hello, guys. Hope you're both well. Good to see you, Manny. Enjoyed the stream over Ores Talks Football just then. Good stuff. Good stuff. Malcolm said 20 million. What a bargain. Yes, 20 million for Mark Gay is a bargain. In all honesty, against Macclesfield, I watched the highlights. Let's be honest, nobody in a Crystal Palace shirt played very well that game. Got to give credit to Macclesfield, how well they played and what they did. But Crystal Palace, I think, was part of their own downfall as well. A full strength, or not a full strength Crystal Palace, but a Crystal Palace that was in the same momentum as they have been throughout the season would have beaten Macclesfield, I've got no doubt. But full credit to Macclesfield, you only beat what's in front of you, as they say. Malcolm's given me a second yellow. I think that's about mentioning about Andoni Iraola and succession planning. But hey,
send it to VAR.
Yeah, to be honest, I'll take that, because at the end of the day, no manager is going to be at a club forever, and no player is going to be at a club forever. All players are going to age and are going to come to the end of their careers. you could have the most loyal player in the world, Adam Smith, for example, who's been a
Yes.
great servant for this football club. He is coming to the twilight part of his career. Is he going to stay at Bournemouth much longer? I probably doubt it. He might go into a coaching capacity. He might want to continue his career elsewhere. But at the same time, is having that succession planning, right? What are we going to do when this player goes, or when this player is not, quite up to the standards? Your legs go, hey, I'm 40 years old. I couldn't bloody run around the football pitch if you paid me nowadays. So yeah, that's the whole point I'm kind of making. Is Andoni Iraola will eventually go, but not quite yet. 20
He
million.
won't. He won't. And I will say that with
I don't
regard
think he'll
to
go just yet.
he probably won't. And I will say with regard to some of the players, obviously you've had players leave you in the past, but you've managed to do some good business and make sure you get some replacements. And I think in Jimenez, you've got someone who could potentially be long-term your new right back. Don't forget, Araujo has gone to Celtic on loan to try and, snatch the Scottish Premiership title from the hands of Heart of Midlothian. He might possibly come back, and then we'll see how well he plays if he continues to play. So with regard to players, there's always that succession plan. I think with the managers, there will come a time when obviously the club will need to sit down and discuss certain things. And it's just unfortunate how things have transpired at Crystal Palace. And I only hope that they will have some good resolutions in time for the start of next season. I definitely don't see them getting relegated, but this season will probably be a little bit of a write-off in comparison. I know they technically are still in the UEFA Conference League, but it's going to be. I don't see them going too far, but again, stranger things have happened.
Well, you never know. They might win it. I don't think that competition is as strong as a lot of people think it is, but we shall see. We shall see. 20 million only due to his contracts expiring at the end of the season. Paul from Oz has said, good pickup by City, probably on a huge contract offered. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, it's probably due to that. But then again, that look needs to be, aimed at the powers that be at Crystal Palace, and are they, keeping an eye on these contracts? Are they managing these contracts right? Like we do, to be fair, we talk about Semenyo and him going to, Man City, but, at least we got a very decent fee for him in the end. And, maybe if Crystal Palace had done a similar thing with Mark Gay, he might have signed a new contract. Man City would have paid without a doubt 30, not 34, but 64, 65 million for Mark Gay as well, and they would have made quite a bit of money out of it. So yeah, it is the way that the clubs are being run. But I tell you what, let's talk about one other man who is playing for the Cherries at the moment. That is going to be leaving the club, and that is Marcos Senesi. Now, he has said that he's not signing a new deal at Dean Court. Is he really leaving? The defender is exploring the options. Now, no doubt, Kelsey Bowers, who plays for the AFC Bournemouth women's team, will be going to whichever club he goes to. But, maybe, just maybe, she might keep him here as well. You never know. But who is Senesi linked with? So here we go. The story so far. Romeo Agresti reports that Juventus are ready to send an offer to sign Bournemouth defender Marcos Senesi as a free agent at the end of the season. Juventus are in talks with Senesi's entourage, and according to Juventus expert Romeo Agresti, the Serie A giants will make an offer to sign the Argentine as a free agent. Interesting. So Juventus, a big name, maybe digressed a little bit recently, but Senesi could go there and bring them back to where they are. The other team is Napoli. They're poised to enter talks with Bournemouth defender Marcos Senesi our sources have been told the Cherries centre-back has rejected multiple lucrative contract offers to extend his stay at the club. Thankfully for Bournemouth, the 28-year-old looks set to stay on the south coast until the end of the season and leave for free in the summer. So that's according to Sports Boom. Manchester United are also after Marcos Senesi, and it could be thwarted as they are busy with other matters following the dismissal of Ruben Amorim last week. With 88 Premier League appearances under his belt since joining the Cherries from Feyenoord in 2022, he could prove a cost-effective acquisition for any club on a free transfer. United are among those interested, having reached out to the 28-year-old's representatives last month. That's an interesting one because Manchester United, they might be one of the biggest clubs in the world still. They might have still one of the biggest turnovers in the world, but they are trying to cost cut significantly. And here we are. This is two big clubs. According to a recent report from, and I'm going to struggle saying this, Fijajes. I think that's how you say it, Fijajes.
Fichajes, like in Spanish, the J is pronounced H.
See, man, he's got it bloody all. You've got it all. Fehaz, I can't even say it.
Mate, just don't bother with it. Just say according to a recent report.
Barcelona have started moving seriously for Bournemouth centre-back Marcos Senesi, who is expected to be one of the most sought-after free agents in Europe at the end of the season. Interest is not limited to Barcelona. In Spain, Atletico Madrid are also monitoring the situation closely, fully aware this is a rare market opportunity. The voice Senesi will leave is a big problem. He's in his prime and he's able to pass his experience on to younger players and up-and-coming players. Where, Manny, do you think this man is going? Because he doesn't seem to want to sign a new contract. Now, what I would do, if I was, and this is probably easier said than done, I'm going to pretend now I'm Thiago Pinto or Simon Francis. I would offer him another contract, and everybody's been moaning about the Semenyo contract because it had that get out clause. But I think, we had to get him to sign that because of, the remainder on his deal. What I would personally do is I would put it to Marcos Senesi, put a contract, but then put a release clause in there as well. So I'd probably do what everybody's saying that we shouldn't have done with Semenyo. The fact is where is he gonna go to? That's the big question. I know where I don't want him to go to, but where will he end up?
It's funny, really, Craig, because I do seem to remember at the beginning of the season, there were a lot of complaints about Senesi's defensive performances and how, at times his positional awareness was found wanting. I think it's fair to say he has improved, and it's still a little bit of an indictment, really, that if you take a look at the Bournemouth roster right now, especially in that defence, he is effectively one of your most experienced defenders. Obviously, we know all about Smithy, but Smithy's not a central defender, you see. And you've spoken about how James Hill has, come on leaps and bounds and could very well be a good successor. But, with Senesi in the team, obviously you have at least some experience. And it's sad that he isn't really eager to sign a new deal. It's just as well that having sold several of your players and brought in a great deal of money, you're in a position where you can just say, you know what, let him go wherever he wants. But it's funny how Barcelona and Atletico Madrid have considered this to be a market opportunity. I put that in quotation marks because, he's a decent defender, but he's not really at that class as of yet. And he hasn't really been able to break completely into the Argentinian national team as of yet, although to be fair, they do have their established players ahead of him in the pecking order. But even now with Bournemouth, I think he's been with you lot for about coming up to, this will be his fourth season, I think, with the Cherries. Mm-hmm. And he's made about 65 league appearances and a few more in some cups. So he's had some good moments and he's had some bad moments. And I wouldn't necessarily be too down about losing him as long as you can get a decent replacement. Now, there's a part of me that thinks that if you could possibly have a chat with Manchester United about signing a certain former England defender, he could maybe come over to the Cherry, come over to Dean Court. You can offer a nominal fee and give them Marcos Senesi as an exchange. Have him play with Lisandro Martinez, and you end up having an experienced defender coming over to Bournemouth to pass his experience on to the youngsters. Because let's face it, with the way Mark Gahey, Ezri Konsa, John Stones and a few others are playing, I do not see Harry Maguire getting picked for the World Cup, and I think his England career will definitely be over. He still clearly has a lot to offer, and I think he will want to, come over to Bournemouth and maybe try and have some sort of a career revival, perhaps. So I'm not necessarily saying that you could go for Harry Maguire. I don't think people in the chat, especially not the Bournemouth fans, would consider that an option. And I'm also worried about being given a card by our dear friend, Mr. Chiverton. And even Mr. Harrison will definitely not countenance that happening. So there are some experienced options if you are willing to cast your net a little bit wider. If you can't get them on a free transfer, you can definitely try and get an experienced defender for a somewhat nominal fee. Or you could offer Senesi as a make weight, because I know technically he will be a free agent at the end of the deal, so he can go wherever he likes. But I'm sure Senesi, having said that, would jump at the challenge of moving to a big club. I know that United have said that they've got other pressing issues on their mind, but the thing about these clubs, Craig, is that they will say whatever they want to try and not divulge their interest in certain players. And of course, with Juventus, it's interesting. He could possibly end up having a reunion with another former Cherry, Lloyd Kelly, of course.
Yes.
And Napoli will be very interesting because they are still fighting for the Scudetto along with Inter and AC Milan. So it will be interesting to see where he fits into those plans. I just don't know how well he will actually play and how many opportunities he will end up getting if he moves to a bigger club. So maybe he says he wants a new challenge. Maybe he wants to try something new. But as long as he improves his performances between now and the end of the season, I don't know if you should have any complaints. So I think you're in a position now where you can't afford to drop him. So you might as well let him stay until the end of the season, and then he can leave. And then that just means that you're going to have to cast your net a little bit wider to find another experienced defender who can come in and, make that sort of an impact. I've mentioned Mr. Maguire. There may be a few others. You can always so there are some other people who might fancy the challenge of moving to Bournemouth and trying to get them back up to the pedestal where they are. And I think Ray has said it. Paul said it perfectly. You'll need Senesi until the end of the season, potentially the same as Mark Gahey. But with no club wanting to sign him now, you will be resigned to losing him on a free. So I'd say just keep him sweetened between now and the end of the season, and then let him be on his way. And, again, evolve the team, move on, buy someone new, and you go again.
He's going to be a big loss. He's played very, very well this season. I think he was a little bit frustrated at the last season. Of course, he lost his place to Dean Howson. Dean Howson, fabulous talent. But Senesi's come back in, and he's been brilliant. He really has been brilliant. So, hey, I wish him the very best, whatever he decides to do. But I think, it will be not in this window, but in the summer.
Yes,
I would not be
right.
surprised. I'm looking at Manchester United's backline. I don't think it's particularly strong. Manchester United seems probably to be the best venue for him. He would certainly improve that backline that they've got at Old Trafford. So that's a possibility. And also, I'll mention one player I'd like from Manchester United in a moment. Alan said Harry Maguire is the most Bournemouth player you could mention. I don't know.
Sorry, Alan.
No, I actually don't know about that. I think you look back into the players that got us into the Premier League in the first place. Steve Cook, for example, was, and I get on really, really well personally with Cookie. But the thing is he was not, and he'll forgive me for saying this, he wasn't ever the most talented of players. He wasn't the most talented of players, but he read the game well. He did the right things. He made the right moves, and he got the job done. And Harry Maguire is very much, I think, in that boat as well. He does the right things. He's not going to set the world alight. He does pop up with a goal every now and again. Who can forget his goal against Sweden in the World Cup, wasn't it? Was it the World Cup or the Euros? World Cup, wasn't it, in Russia? So he popped up with
the World Cup.
Yeah, popped up with a header then. So he's quality. But I'll tell you what, if Senesi goes to Manchester United, there's one player from Manchester United I'd love to have at this football club. I just don't understand why he doesn't get his game. You might be able to tell me. You might be able to explain this to me, Manny, because it doesn't make any bloody sense. Kobe Mainoo. I love Kobe Mainoo. I think he's quality. I think he's brilliant. Why the hell does he not get his game at Manchester United?
Well, the answer is he didn't get too many games at Manchester United because obviously for some reason or another, Amarim or Scamarim, as a lot of United fans would refer to him as, he for some reason, he just didn't seem to rate him very well. And obviously Mainoo, you will remember, was a big part of our England team that reached the final. A very left field pick by Gareth Southgate ahead of the likes of Jordan Henderson. I think Adam Morton was also in the squad. And Mainoo actually was given quite a lot of chances to impress by England. And, he also was a big part of that United team that won the FA Cup that season under Eric Ten Hag, if memory serves me right. Yeah, I think he was. It's just a shame, though, that with Amarim's own demands on players and how, the way he operated, sticking stubbornly to a back three system with four in the defensive midfield, two attacking midfielders in a pivot behind a striker. I don't think he was able to quite get the best out of the likes of Kobe Mainoo or even Amad Diallo and a few others. But with United having a new manager, they've already confirmed that Michael Carrick's come back to take the job on an interim basis, and he will stay until the end of the season, and then they'll hire a new manager. It could very well be that Mainoo will find his way back into the team, and if he ends up, impressing enough to be a part of the new Manchester United manager's plans for next season, then it could very well be that he stays on. Or maybe he could decide, I've had enough of the toxicity. I'd like to go away and thrive the way the likes of Marcus Rashford and Scott McTominay have. And you know what? For someone like him, who can definitely play in the defensive midfield pivot, someone who can lend a bit of bite to a midfield, he wouldn't be a bad option. The only problem is you've already signed Alex Toth to play in that position. Maybe long term you might want to push Toth forward and have Mainoo come in. Maybe there might be something in that. And I think Andoni is a very keen observer of footballing talent across the Premiership. So it could very well be that that might be an option. Again, you don't want to leave yourselves in a situation where you're a bit middle heavy. And honestly, mate, I think you're going to need some more defenders for sure.
Yes. Talking about defenders, Paul has just said, Steve Cook, ex-Brighton player, best backup keeper I've ever seen, Craig. Yes, I know. I've ribbed him about this a couple of times, actually. I don't know if you remember it, the save where he's kind of hooked it out against Norwich. He doesn't really want to hear about it, to be honest. But yeah, I gotta be honest, it was mightily impressive. And Steve Cook.
I wonder if it was as impressive as Craig Gordon's save against Dundee over the weekend.
Oh dear, oh dear. No, Steve Cooks. I tell you what a save, what a save. Everybody thought he was a goalkeeper there. I think pretty much all of the Norwich fans at Carrow Road that day was thinking, "Oh bloody hell, he's a good goalkeeper." Oh no, hang on, it's Steve Cook. Yeah, he won't like me bringing that back up. But yeah, sorry, Steve, if you are watching, I'm pretty sure that you're probably not, and you're ready for QPR's game tomorrow. Whoever you got, so all the very, very best to you to hopefully get the hoops back into the top flight. They're doing all right. They're doing all right. They're not doing too badly this season. Slow progression, but they're getting there. But quickly, I'm just going to bring up another player that has completed a move, and that is Conor Gallagher. He has joined from Atletico Madrid to your favourite club, Manny, Spurs. So he's getting ready not to win a single thing.
Yeah, from the looks of it. I mean, they're not going to win the Champions League. They're out of both domestic cups. They're doing horribly in the Premiership right now under Thomas the Frank engine. Happy days. And, again, this is another club which also has the ability to flex its financial muscle of sorts because of the revenue streams that they've got coming in. Obviously, our good friend Eugene from Malaysia, shout out to Spurs Asian TV, by the way, will have told you about the alternative revenue streams that Spurs are able to use with the new stadium. Despite taking on a great deal of debt, they have been able to, chip away at that or hack away at that with the revenue they got coming in. And the reason why I say this is because you want an example of a selling club? Aston Villa. They've very recently, in fact, over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours, had to say goodbye to the slightly inconsistent, but definitely, exciting Daniel Marlin, who had only joined from Borussia Dortmund in January of last season. And, obviously, given that they're being strangled at the moment by PSR, they have to sell before they can possibly buy. There is talk about them possibly bringing Tammy Abraham back home to replace him as a proper out-and-out striker rather than someone like Marlin, who is quite versatile enough to be a winger, a good a specialised winger, someone who could play as a false nine, except he doesn't hold up the ball very well. But Villa were actually interested in getting Conor Gallagher to come in. The reason why is because obviously they've now lost Amadou Onana and Boubacar Kamara to injuries, and those two are normally the players who play in the defensive double pivot whenever they're fit. So on Sunday against Everton, they will be playing with Yuri Tillemans and Lamada Bojarde in that pivot, just as they played against Spurs when, thankfully, they knocked Spurs out of the FA Cup over the weekend. But because Spurs had the muscle, they were able to offer Gallagher a full deal, while Villa were only willing to offer a loan deal with a possible obligation to buy. And so this is another example of how money talks, and clubs who have the financial means can get everything. And Villa, as magnificently as they've done this season after a dreadful start, they're still going to be hamstrung as to what business they can do. But I wouldn't put it past Aston Villa to get some good loan signings in and keep their momentum going. And as far as Spurs are concerned, I think in their minds they've written off this season, and maybe Gallagher coming in is sort of like an investment for the future more than anything else. But next season, if they don't get their act together, there are going to be a lot of disgruntled millionaires on heavy salaries at that club. So, Gallagher going there, I think he'll get some games. I think he'll add something to the midfield. He and João Palhinha possibly playing together could enable Frank to change his formation to a 4-2-3-1, and they can start to play a little bit more fluidly. But they've got their own problems, Spurs, and I'm going to say this right now. Their horrible season is karma for the way they treated Ange Postecoglou. How dare you sack a guy who said he'd win a trophy in his second season, won you a big, shiny European trophy rather than a two-penny halfpenny League Cup, for example, and then say, he's not going to be the guy to take us forward. We want a proper manager. And where's that proper manager gotten you? All I can say right now to end it is, Connor, good luck, son. You are going to need it.
Yes. And Thomas Frank. Might be time to go. Might be time to go, sunshine. There we are. Yeah. If anybody know, I'm guessing you probably remember from the watch tapping days at Brentford.
Oh yeah, I think in the words of Elton John, this train might not be stopping there anymore, but we'll have to see. Tottenham against West Ham is El Sacico. I believe whoever loses that match will end up not staying until the end of the season. Will it be Frank?
Okay.
Will it be Nuno? We'll have to see.
Definitely. Let's go back to the Cherries because we have been linked to another player. And this time, a Brazilian player. Bournemouth step forward for Wonder Kid, right step for Ryan. And of course, Bournemouth are now pushing for Brazilian Wonder Kid Ryan as the Premier League club take a more proactive stance in the race that has already featured several European sides. Now, this guy is pretty exciting. The update comes from transfer journalist Matteo Moretto, who reports that the Cherries are actively moving on the Vasco da Gama forward. That development places Bournemouth alongside clubs previously linked with the 19-year-old, including Manchester United, Tottenham and Crystal Palace, as well as interest from outside of England. However, unlike some of those sides, Bournemouth appear ready to offer a clearer sporting pathway rather than remain in the monitoring phase. According to Moretto, the South Coast club are applying pressure as they explore a potential deal with Vasco. The negotiations remain shaped by Vasco's firm position. The Brazilian club recently renewed Ryan's contract until 2028 and continue to point interested parties towards a €20 million release clause. Around
Is that 20 or 80?
Sorry, 80 million. Why
Yeah.
did I say 20? Sorry, 80 million release clause, around 68 million pounds. I tell you what, that would be a different conversion rate, wouldn't it? Brazilian journalist Thomas Elencar commented on the news from a development point of view, backing the Bournemouth option. Speaking about the potential move, he said, I think it's the right step for Ryan. Bournemouth usually develop their promising assets very well. Ryan would arrive to be a starter and to get playing time, which he would not have at a much bigger club. One step at a time, that's how it works. That assessment reflects opinion rather than confirmation of the strategy, but it echoes a wider view in Brazil, the idea that regular minutes and responsibility could outweigh the immediate appeal of a larger club, especially at this stage of Ryan's career. For now, Bournemouth has positioned themselves as one of another assertive club in the picture. We'll see if any of that intent develops in formal talks, but the situation around Ryan continues to evolve as Premier League interest becomes more tangible. This is quite exciting. I don't know if you've seen much of this guy.
No, I haven't, to be brutally honest with you. In fact, I am sort of taking a look at his development right now. And, you know, in these last 3 years, he's literally been one of their more important players. Normally someone who plays as a winger and a forward and scores some decent goals for a winger, maybe not what you'd like for a forward, but obviously at youth level with Brazil, he's done very well with the under-17s, maybe not quite as well with the under-20s. And his own father played for the club back in the mid-90s, before the turn of the millennium. And, you know, this is interesting, though, because you mentioned that the club have renewed their contract with him until 2008, yeah? So obviously there will be talk of a release clause of about 68, nearly 70 million quid. And for a 19-year-old, you know, it can be daunting in a way. And bear in mind, when you sold Semenyo to City, I think you might have, City were able to meet the release clause. I think with Semenyo, you will be getting some, you know, deferred payments later on based on, I think, performance-related issues and some other clauses, right? So you may be getting more out of that. So maybe this could be something you could afford to do. It's not something that Aston Villa can afford to do. They also signed a Brazilian wonder kid named Alisson to the tune of about 12 million quid, I think. So much less than that, less than the fifth of that, I would say. And, you know, it could be something exciting. And if you can promise him first team football, at least in the domestic cups and maybe in a few league games, if you can ask him to come on as a super sub and maybe get you a few goals, that could be something to work with. But again, my biggest fear is, I love that you're moving for a lot of young players, but surely, you know, defense would be a bigger priority. Having said that, I do see this chap as someone who could succeed some of your players who might be, you know, coming into the twilight of their careers with the Cherries, as you've said, and they could maybe help take the team a little bit forward. And, you know, with the sensible mentality that the journalist talks about, namely that younger players would benefit more from actually playing regularly with certain clubs rather than simply, you know, joining a bigger club and then invariably being loaned elsewhere and being, you know, passed from pillar to post. It's not going to be for their benefit in the long run. So if this move does go forward, it could very well be positive. Having said that, the release clause means that you are taking a very, very big punt on a 19-year-old. And I just hope that, you know, this won't go to his head and make him feel as though he's untouchable. He has to stay humble and he has to stay completely grounded.
I don't think we'll pay that release clause. What I think we'll do is we'll do a percentage of a sale add-on. You know, I think that this seems, you know, it seems like that he's scoring 1 in 3 in 1 and wow, his average is a 1 in 3. You know, so he's doing something right in the Brazilian leagues. You know, whether or not that can transpire to the, you know, English league, that is a different thing. You know, the Premier League is a totally different animal. But then again, Ellie Julia Krupi, dare I say, you know, is an example of what players can do. You know, so I'm excited by this. I think probably, you know, the flexibility that he can play on the wing as well, maybe play in that Semenyo type role rather than up front instead of Evan Nielsen or Krupi, is possibly something that, you know, Iriola and Frano and of course Thiago Pinto will be looking at. So I think this is quite exciting. But it seems like we are showing some real interest and some real intent with this lad, and he does fit the mold of the sort of players we go for. I just want to cover off a player that is going to be potentially leaving the club soon. He has been taken out of the Saudi League and he has gone into Le Havre. I think that's how you say it. I'm struggling with all these names. But Bournemouth's Romain Favre has completed a loan move to Le Havre. Currently contracted to AFC Bournemouth until 2028. Favre is on loan at Al Tawun. Is that how you say that?
Al Tawun, yeah, that's right. Don't worry.
There we go. Go on. Cheers, Manny. But his stint in Saudi Arabia has proven short-lived. The 27-year-old has made just 5 appearances since joining in the summer, scoring once, and has not featured since October the 23rd. Auxerre miss out on his loan in the Gulf state, will therefore be cut short. And Meshnauer understands. Meshnauer understands that Favre is already en route to France. The former Stade Brestois and Olympique Lyonnais forward, he's set to undergo his medical and then sign for Les Ciel et Marines on loan until the end of the season. Le Havre have beaten Ligue 1 competition to land the Frenchman's signature. Auxerre, also in the relegation battle, were also in the race. I'm going to be honest here with regards to this lad. I hate saying this, but sometimes it has to be said. I don't think he's good enough for AFC Bournemouth. I think, in all honesty, Al Tawun are 3rd in the Saudi League at the moment, so they're not doing too badly. But I've said this from day one. You know, when Ronaldo and all these players were going over to Saudi League, and Ivan Toney and all this, the quality of football in the Saudi League is not very good. And if you look at Al Tawoun's, team, the majority of them are from Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm not criticizing the Saudi footballers at all here. I'm not going to do that. You know, please, if you are watching from Saudi Arabia, which you're probably not, but if you are, I'm not criticizing the players, but the levels of football are not that in the Premier League. It's not that in France. I just don't think I don't think he's good enough. And if he's looking at a move, maybe let's be perfectly honest here. In all honesty, he's probably going to need to look a little bit further down the pecking order. Le Havre might love him; they might absolutely love him, but I think his time is up here at AFC Bournemouth, and I think we will probably cash in during the summer.
It could very well be the case, and I am actually going to, look at a few things here. Yeah, you are right. Al Tawoun are third, and they could look to qualify for the AFC Champions League. So I think Roman might be a little bit gutted to potentially miss out on that. But the thing about this chap Favre is he actually had a decent time of it at Stade Brestois, where I don't think he was a part of their Champions League exploits. I think that was the previous season, and over there. Yeah. No, he wasn't a part of it. At that time, he was obviously at Bournemouth, and then wait. That was last season at he was at Brestois last season, so he might have actually played a role there. And the Aston Villa backup goalkeeper Marco Bizot would be a teammate of his, I think. So he actually he's had a decent time at Stade Brestois. He's made most of his appearances at that club and not done too badly. I just think. You might be right in saying that he's not really good enough for Bournemouth, but obviously, I think if you take a look at his stats, he's played his best football back in his home country. So it could very well be that you might just need to cut your losses and let him go. You're absolutely right. There are some people who perform better in a certain environment, one in which they're at their most comfortable, and this could probably be a good thing for him as he tries to. Rediscover his himself. He's 27, so he should be in his prime years, but he hasn't really had the best time of it. Maybe he should go back to France and really, resurrect his career again. So, yeah, he's one person you might need to offload ASAP.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not being funny. When you look at the AFC Champions League. Yeah, okay. I went over to Singapore, of course, back in April last year, and I watched a AFC game between Sydney FC, who aren't in this year's competition, and also Lion City Sailors, who finished runners-up to Sharjah, which is a UAE Emirati club.
Yes, that's right.
Quality, in all honesty, wasn't that great, and it's not that much of a step up really to the elite Champions League as it is. Al Alhi won that last time round. In all honesty, I think his time's up here. I can't see him being part of the picture moving forwards, and it's such a shame because he's meant to be a really good lad, but sometimes the talent is just I just don't see it. I just don't see it. We're going to just bring up what I think is an absolute bloody ridiculous rumour. Are you ready for it, Manny?
Fire away. Whether I'm ready or not, you're going to say it, so I'll steady myself.
It's that Nottingham Forest wants Bournemouth ace Marcus Tavernier. I don't get this. Forest are interested in Tavernier and will use James McAtee as part of the deal. While McAtee is more of a playmaker than a winger and would not be a direct replacement for Tavernier, the City Academy graduate is capable of playing across a range of attacking positions and at 3 years younger has room to develop into a top player if given the lease to express himself at the Vitality Stadium. This is rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I cannot see, I know Marcus Tavernier has had lots of, his fair share of criticism here, but I cannot see James McAtee being, you know, I, I just can't see it. I cannot see it in a million years. He did all right at Sheffield United, but to be honest, yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I think Marcus Tavernier will stay.
Yeah, if you don't get it, certainly I wouldn't. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I did read about that, but I didn't even give it any kind of attention. That doesn't deserve any sort of mention at all. There is talk about how if you are an academy graduate from Manchester City, you've got to be something like the bee's knees. You think of people like Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, and a few others. Liam Delap, if you want to, stretch it a bit. But James McAtee, there's no doubt that this boy has talent and ability, but he's also been a big part of Forest's struggles this season. And I'm not saying necessarily that the Cherries have done too much better this season, also out of both cups, but you are better placed than them in the league, and you obviously have a greater potential to go even higher. I definitely don't see you being stuck in that position. And Marcus, for what it's worth, has been literally one of your key players. So I know that there is a lot of talk about how you guys like to develop a lot of youngsters and try and bring them in. But McAtee is someone who I don't know will really adapt well to life over there at Dean Court. And Tavernier is still a popular figure. And there's a part of me that thinks that he could, if he stays for a little bit longer, end up becoming potentially Bournemouth club captain. So why would he want to give that up? Why would the club want to part way with one of their key players and bring in someone who hasn't really quite hit the heights expected of him since leaving City? It doesn't even deserve oxygen. It doesn't deserve any of our any attention from us. I wouldn't even pay heed to it, to be honest with you. Forget about it.
I don't think I'm getting. And hang on, we have had somebody just join the live stream now. I just want to give them their opinion on it. So I'd like to just welcome in into the room. Do let us know your thoughts.
Bullshit.
Yeesh.
Thank you, Carl.
You had me going for a minute there.
Yeah.
You had me going for a minute.
Oh, hang on. He just wants to say it again.
Bullshit.
You might be given a little bit of slap on the wrist by YouTube for that. Just be careful, mate.
No, I'm sure they'll be all right.
Bullshit.
Okay. Now I'm starting to think you got a bit of a trigger finger.
Yes.
Enough, Craig.
Should we move on?
Yes,
please.
I
think it's probably best, isn't it? It's probably best. Right, let's move on to this man. Paqueta wants out of West Ham. What a surprise that is. People close to the player claim he is unlikely to leave West Ham in the Premier League January window, but have pointed out that the Brazilian transfer window does not close until the 3rd of March. So he wants to go back to Brazil. This is interesting because I personally think he's probably is he too good for Brazil? The Brazilian league. Don't get me wrong. Brazilian football is brilliant. The players that they produce is brilliant, but the league is not up to the standard again. The Premier League is. It's not up to the standard of the German or the French or the Spanish league. Is he homesick? That's an interesting one. What do you reckon, Manny? I
Uh,
can understand him wanting to potentially leave West Ham.
Yeah, he just wants to leave the club, I think. The club are not in a good way at the moment. There's a lot of mismanagement from, the top down, and the team's doing horribly. And they're also another club who are finding out the hard way that if you decide to replace a trophy-winning manager because you want more, be careful what you wish for, because you will get it. And they're finding that out the hard way. I think it's the case that, he wants out, and why he would mention that the Brazilian transfer window isn't closed until the beginning of March, I wouldn't know, because you think that at the age of 28, having already played for the likes of AC Milan and Lyon, he would want to try and secure a move to a good European club. And there was talk at the beginning of the season about how Aston Villa wanted to buy him, but due to circumstances, they couldn't get him, and they ended up getting Harvey Elliott instead. Fat lot of good that's done both the club and the player. I just think Paqueta wants out any which way, and he's saying what he's saying right now to try to, get West Ham to cut him free. It could very well be that, with about 2 weeks to go until the end of the month, maybe there'll be a club that might secure his services, or he might just end up, being resigned to leave at the end of the season. And of course, if West Ham do get relegated, they will cut their losses and let him leave. They may decide to, let just cancel his contract and let him leave on a free. When he joined in August 2022, it was for a 5-year deal, estimated to be more than 50 million quid with additional add-ons. But obviously, I don't think they can afford to if they let him stay for one more season, he will end up, being a free agent anyway. So if there is an opportunity to get some money for him, I don't know why West Ham wouldn't want to cash in on him. And it could very well be that they will lose Jared Bowen if the club ends up getting relegated. But there's just so much going on at the club right now, none of it good, that it's not really fair to speculate on what might happen to them. And we don't even know if Nuno Santo will be staying until the end of the season. So exactly. It could very well be that Paqueta ends up, leaving before the end of the January window, because I think player and club will just want this messy business to come to an end. If a player is no longer happy, then why should we keep him in a season where we're trying to stay in the Premier League? So I don't think he's homesick necessarily. I just think he wants out of West Ham. The bubble has well and truly burst.
To be honest, I'd have him on loan here until the end of the season. If he really desires to leave West Ham, I'd have him on loan here. He could probably bring a bit to us that maybe we are lacking. But would we want to sign him permanently? I don't think so. I think, his wages at West Ham are very, very heavy. He's got a very good package there, but I can understand why he wants to leave West Ham. The place is a pressure cooker at the moment, and it's not a pleasant place to be. But that's my honest opinion on that one. Breaking news about a player that we've mentioned. Cherries have bid 27.75 million for Rayham. Talks are being held and should be completed by the end of the weekend if the agreement is reached. Now, that is very, very, very interesting. And I would imagine, because we haven't actually met the release clause, that there is a sell-on clause due to Vasco da Gama if we do sell him on to somebody like Barcelona or Real Madrid or someone like that in the long run. So it could well be another Thiago Pinto, Simon Francis masterclass. I think we might get him for that. I honestly do. But there we are. There is the latest breaking news. Rayan, this man here, we have put a bid in. So there we are.
A potential replacement for Semenyo. And of course, it was mentioned that, yes, there was a release clause of nearly 70 million quid, but they've set what was known as a masking price for him at about 40 nearly 44 million. And as you probably mentioned, instead of actually paying a large sum up front, they pay, an offer of about 30 million quid and also have a certain clause, as you've mentioned. So if that does happen, then yeah, I think that would be wonderful. But again, he'll have to come to the club with his fitness well on point, because I would like to think that he will probably be expected to play a few games almost immediately. But again, well done. You've managed to get him, and I say good luck to him.
Well, it's not done yet, but it looks like something is going on in the background. Paul from Oz said, I think I heard the club say no one else will be leaving the club in January, which, yes, I hope that is the case. There's a lot of talk about Alex Scott as well that I've seen, but I think a lot of it is garbage. A lot of it, oh, hang on. He is back. Hang on. There's somebody back. Alex Scott leaving AFC Bournemouth.
Bullshit.
I know who it is.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks.
No need for the build up this time.
So let's talk about Solanke returning. However, not that Solanke. We have signed a very exciting player. So AFC Bournemouth is delighted to announce that promising young left back Ade Solanke has joined the club on a long-term deal from Ligue 1 side Lorient. Lorient, sorry. See, Manny has to correct me with all my pronunciation. The Republic of Ireland Youth International, who signed the contract on his 18th birthday earlier this month, has featured for Lorient's under 19s and reserve sides and has represented his country 31 times from under 15 to the under 18 level, most recently appearing at the FIFA under 17 World Cup in Qatar. A former Shamrock Rovers youth player, he joined Lorient in January 2025. I'm really being conscious how I say that now, Manny. After being named in the Irish Champions Matchday squad on 2 occasions after completing his move, Solanke said, I'm over the moon. I feel it's been a long time coming, but I'm delighted to be here and I can't wait to get started. With AFC Bournemouth being a Premier League club, a move like this is really something I've dreamt of. I'm grateful and I thank God. I am really happy. Wow. This young kid, there's not much about him online, actually. I don't even think I did have a look for him, actually, because it was all over the AFC Bournemouth, webpage. I couldn't actually find a Wikipedia page. So he is very fresh. He's very young. But, he is going to be, what I understand, a very exciting player. And of course, with our Category 1 Academy that should be coming very, very soon, this is the sort of player that we want. This is the sort of signing we want to attract. And this is probably a statement signing. I believe we're not the only club that was in for Ade Solanke, and there was a lot of clubs in for him, looking at him, investigating the move, watching him, but we have jumped ahead of all of them, and now it's up to the boy to actually show what he's made of, and I'm sure he will do. He seems to be, from his interview, a young head on old shoulders, or an old head on young shoulders, should I say.
It's actually the older head on young shoulders, because
old head on young
shoulders, always, because let's not forget he is 18, signed on his 18th birthday. Yes. And I'll tell you what, this is another example of how Bournemouth are really going all out to scout some outstanding youth talent. And you've got someone over here who obviously was a big star in the Under-17 World Cup. I think it's fair to say that just as he's too young to have a social media profile on Instagram or even Facebook, he might be too young to have a Wikipedia entry. But it could be that way. But, I'll be interested to see how well he develops. And I only hope that, obviously, when you had to replace Milos Kerkez, who moved to Liverpool, you signed Toth, who has had his inconsistencies, but of late has started to somehow settle in, I'd like to think. But, it could very well be that this chap, Ade Solanke, will provide some competition for Toth while also continuing his footballing education. I do see him. I don't know if he will necessarily get to play in the first team, but he will get plenty of games with Bournemouth's reserve team for sure. And if the circumstances dictate that he has to be called up to the first team for cover or what have you, if he does do well, then so be it. I think that could very well prove to be a good thing for him. It's just tragic that given his age, it's a little bit too soon to talk of him possibly joining the first team anytime soon. But you never know. I think the club will certainly be monitoring his development very well. They will give him plenty of opportunities, and we'll see how well he develops. He's definitely one that I'm going to be interested to look at in the coming seasons. If next season he doesn't break into the first team, then he could probably do it the season afterwards. That is 27-28. But he's joined a good place to continue his footballing education, and I think he will enjoy his time at Dean Court.
100%. And it's the sort of signing that we enjoy making. We never know. He might not make it, but, I've got every faith that we've picked another good player. Two other little bits of gossip, and we'll just conclude on these two parts. And this is Cherries are lining up a loan offer for unsettled Inter Milan and Italy midfielder. Premier League side AFC Bournemouth are reportedly plotting a January swoop for Inter Milan outcast David Fratesi. I think.
Yep, nailed it. Perfect. David, you've got it correctly, Signor Beasley. Bellissimo.
Thank you. What does that mean? Does that mean well done?
Bellissimo means beautiful. So any compliment you get in Italian, just take it and run.
Bellissimo. Well, thank you, bellissimo, Manny. I'm not going to talk Italian through the rest of this. According to Tutto Sport via FC Inter News, the Cherries are weighing up a loan bid for the Italian midfielder. Know anything about this guy, Manny?
What's not to know? What's not to like? Italian international, certainly a key player in the Azzurri's plans. He's played 33 games already for the Azzurri. I don't think he was a part of their Euro triumph, but obviously I think he was a big part. He did play in the the Euros in 2024, and he is going to be quite important as they try to secure qualification for a World Cup without getting eliminated, which would be the third time in a row. And obviously, he made his name with Sassuolo. That was his first professional, the first club for which he played as a first-team regular. He was in the youth teams at Lazio and Roma. Had some loan deals in between, but now is, of course, with Inter Milan, a very big part, of course, of their Scudetti and Champions League campaigns. Serie A winner, of course, a couple of seasons ago, and runner-up in the Champions League the following season. Also won the Italian Super Cup in 2023. So he does have some good pedigree, and certainly he's more of a midfielder, probably someone who, he is supposed to be technically gifted, very physical midfielder. Can also play offensively and defensively, just like Alex Toth or who have you, and. He is more of a central midfielder in the the Italian national team scheme of things, but can also play defensively, and so he'll lend some solidity. 26 years old, also in the prime of his career. A loan move could prove very good for him, but then would Inter be willing to part with him? If we take a look at Inter Milan this current season and how they've been playing. Obviously, as we speak, I believe they are top of the Serie A table. And as far as the player stats are concerned, we'll find out how many games this chap has actually played. He's only played 16 games in Serie A, I think. No, 16 games in total. 10 appearances in Serie A, so technically he could qualify for a medal, but he's been a little bit more marginalised of late and hasn't really had much action in Europe either. So obviously he will look to try to get some game time to try to keep himself in the thoughts of Gennaro Gattuso, who is Italy's manager, and will also want to see Italy qualify for the World Cup. But you might want to be warned, a certain team based in the Midlands are also bidding for him, Nottingham Forest, also looking to sign Fratesi on loan. So if you want to get him on loan, you're going to have to move very quickly, because there's no way he should be allowed to go to that Forest team the way they are at the moment. No chance. Dyche will Sean Dyche will ruin it.
And I was just having a little look at his statistics, and one player that he played alongside at Sassuolo is a player that we actually have still on our books, and that is Hamad Traore. Of course, he is on loan. He seems to be a bit of a journeyman. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to be very settled at AFC Bournemouth. But yes, he did play alongside Hamad Traore for a number of years as well. So there we are, a bit of statistics there for you. But last but not least, here's another rumour that is coming up. And Cherries are eyeing an English midfielder struggling in Ligue 1. Angel Gomez, the England international, arrived at Marseille on a free transfer from Lille last summer, but has completely failed to convince Roberto De Zerbi. According to L'Equipe, have I said that right?
L'Equipe.
A departure as early as this winter is entirely possible for Olympique Marseille, with several Premier League clubs all having already made inquiries. For Bournemouth, Gomez would represent a different profile to Semenyo, but could add creativity and technical quality to Iraola's midfield. The Manchester United Academy graduate has already proven himself in Ligue 1 and has become an England international for caps during his time at Lille. I don't understand why it's not really worked for him at Marseille, but Angel Gomez is a pretty decent player. He's a pretty exciting player. He is in his mid-20s, so he's coming up to his prime. At Lille, he went to Boavista for a little while. Manchester United didn't really make it there, but I think this kid, if he's given a prolonged chance, I think he might be all right.
Yeah, and obviously, silky football is in his blood. Obviously, I think he's got some Portuguese blood, obviously, in his veins, and his godfather happens to be the former Portugal and Manchester United winger Nani. So, exactly, that's his godfather, by the way, not a relative, but certainly someone pivotal. And he was actually given his England caps under Lee Carsley when he was interim manager during the Europa League. But obviously, Carsley's time didn't last very long, and I think he's just. It's fair to say he's probably gone off the radar a little bit, and clearly the move to Marseille hasn't quite worked out for him, which is sad, really, because, Marseille are, of course, playing in the Champions League and doing very well in Ligue 1, one of two teams that are trying their best to knock PSG off their perch. And in fact, as I speak, Marseille do have a game in hand on PSG, but they've fallen away in terms of points, but they should qualify for the Champions League phase. And they played a game more than Lille in fourth, although they have a similar amount of points. And again, in terms of, the stats, he has actually been... He's made some appearances in the league, scored some goals, and not done too badly. But I think maybe De Zerbi wants a different profile. And you mentioned Hamad Traore, right? Yeah, yes. He is at Marseille on loan from Bournemouth. So... Yep, he was at Sassuolo during the time that Fratesi was there. But even Hamad Traore has found it even worse than Gomez at the moment. I think it might be fair to say that, Gomez might be asked to stay at Marseille a little bit to sort of help aid his development in the way, because as it comes to the end of the season, when Marseille is still going to try to, fight for top honors, they're still going to want to try to recover and see if they can't overhaul, both Lens and PSG. The Gomez may have a role to play, but it could also very well be, as you've alluded to, Craig, that maybe a move away from Marseille might be the best for him and the best thing for him, and a chance to move back to the Premiership, maybe, be in some familiar surroundings. Definitely someone with that continental flair about him. I think he could very well thrive under Andoni. But the biggest issue I have right now is that what we've seen, you lot seem to be interested in a great deal, many midfielders, and a lot of them are quite young. And I do like that, don't get me wrong. I think you are planning for the future. But defensively as well, there have to be some inquiries made about possible available players who could come in, especially with Senesi set to leave on a free at the end of the season, and you will need some experience. I'd like to think that the scouting network at AFC Bournemouth know what they're doing with regard to potential recruitment, but there are still 2 weeks left before the window ends, so I'd like to think that maybe you'll cast your net a bit wider and look for some more defenders, maybe. As long as they're not necessarily impulse purchases, that would be fine. And I did mention Harry Maguire, and I think someone in the chat said, no, we wouldn't want that kind of player there, although you seem to be warming to the idea. You seem to be interested in a lot of midfielders, and I'm not saying they're necessarily bad options, but you might want to cast your net a little bit wisely as you go in, especially how you spend your money and what you promise these guys will determine how successful you are in these purchases. It does look as though you might have Ryan joining you, someone who could see some action as a possible replacement for Semenyo, so no chance for Nwaneri coming in. I think that ship might now have started to sail. You might need to look for some defenders, I think. Hopefully you will.
100%. 100%. One thing we won't be looking for, it's Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Hope you're doing well, mate. Here we go. Paddy, and he's put, is this not the Weekly Vet podcast?
I think he asked a similar question for something else, and I think we can say, sir, no, it's not.
Oh, he's just trying to offload Patson Daka to us. Chris, have you got any good defenders at Leicester? No. We shall move quietly on. Hope you're doing well, mate. Good to see you.
I would have recommended Connor Cody, but he has since gone over to Wales to play for Wrexham, who, of course, knocked Forest out of the FA Cup. I'll never get tired of saying that.
Well, Paul from Oz has said, great show. Thank you so
Cheers,
much
mate.
for joining us. And we're just going to wind down the show now. Chris has said, Wout Faze has gone, sorry.
Well, he wasn't necessarily on my list, but thank you for letting us know, sir.
Yeah. We weren't in for him. To be honest, Chris, Chris is so disappointed. You can tell. Vestergaard, there we are. To be honest, do you know who I did used to like? Who went to Leicester? And I thought he was a good player, is Harry Winks, but I just don't think he's done anything for Leicester, to be honest.
No. I mean, obviously he made his name at Spurs along with Oliver Skipp, and both of them joined Leicester at about the same time, but they didn't exactly set things alight, and obviously with Leicester getting relegated, of course, sorry about that. I think I see a plea there, offloading Vestergaard any which way. Vestergaard is a decent defender, has done well for Denmark, I think, but if he's not able to rip up trees at the club trying to fight for promotion from the Championship, I'm not too sure what use Bournemouth can have for him, to be brutally honest with you.
Well, I think that's about Harry Winks. I don't think Chris is a fan. So there we are. Yeah, I thought he was a great. I thought he was going to be a good player. I did.
I did too, but I'm going to tell you right now, never ask an Arsenal fan to recommend a former Tottenham player. No chance.
Exactly. And on that bombshell, I think we should finally end it. Thank you, everybody in the chat who has contributed tonight. Manny, you back next week?
Definitely. No invitation required. I will be here. No ifs, no buts, no walnuts.
Excellent.
Definitely cherries, but no walnuts.
Well, Alex Toth might be a Bournemouth player. Ryan could be a Bournemouth player. Who knows who else might be a Bournemouth player? Let's be honest, it probably isn't going to be Vestergaard, and it's probably not going to be Harry Winks. Sorry, Chris. It most definitely isn't going to be Patson Daka. Thank you for joining us. We shall see you in the next one. And, anybody who wants to say about Marcus Tavernier leaving this football club, this is what we say.
Bullshit.
We shall see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Up the Cherries and up the Gunners as well, of course, Manny.
Thank you, as always.
You're gonna win the league, mate. You're gonna win the league. It's gonna happen.
The more you keep saying that, you keep saying that every season, then we haven't done it. Yes, exactly. Let me just enjoy the process rather than trusting it more than anything else. Thank you.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. We'll see you in the next one, guys.
TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Mel.